And we are live. Welcome to Phil's First Party Parlay, where we talk all things insurance industry related. We have timely and topical topics for the insurance restoration industry. I'm Phil Sanov, trial lawyer with Morgan & Morgan's Insurance Recovery Group. With Morgan & Morgan's Insurance Recovery Group, I have got 55 of the most awesome attorney colleagues you would ever want to know. We're in 25 offices, 13 states. If you've got any problem with any insurance claim, make sure you come see us. You can reach us through our website, forthepeople.com, hit pound LAW from any cell phone, or just call me direct on my cell, 713-825-3444. We will figure out if we can help you. Just give us a call. I am honored today to have a few of those colleagues. I have my friend Paul Pritchard, who has worked with us for almost 15 years. Paul is one of the better research, writer, and analyst of legal work that you will ever find. We're joined by Paul's brother, Gary Pritchard, who is a general counsel for employment issues with Glidewell Dental. Our very favorite special guest today is mine and Paul's fearless leader, Mark Nation, who leads our insurance recovery group. Mark is going to lead us through a question and answer session for the topic of the day, the topic of goodness knows how long it's going to be, business interruption claims. I'm going to take a step back and make sure we focus on Mark as Mark begins his business interruption presentation. Thank you for being here with us on Phil's First Party Parlay. Mark, take it away.
All right, Phil, appreciate it very much. And I am glad I'm here with you today. You do a great job, not just in a courtroom, but also on your First Party Parlay and getting out the information people need to help them with insurance claims. So I appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing. And so a little bit about myself. I've been doing insurance claims on behalf of policyholders for the past 30 years. And day in and day out, that's what I do. Whether it's life insurance, health insurance, disability, homeowners insurance, business insurance, anything like that. Anytime your own insurance company says no, is low or slow, that's a good case for me to take a look at. One of the things I've done over the years is hundreds of claims involving business interruption claims on behalf of sole proprietors and business owners. And that's very timely now just because of all the closures due to government orders. And we thought it'd be helpful if I walk through a claim for different professionals. In this one, I know that there were some dentists that many dentists who've had to close their office and as a result of COVID-19. And so I'm just sort of spotlighting that industry, but we have these claims now on behalf of every type of industry you can imagine, from manufacturing to professional services to restaurants, small companies, 1 and 2 people, all the way up into large corporations. But the claim, regardless of the industry, is pretty much the same, but I'll focus on that for our topic today. But I'm going to share my screen in a second and just walk through some slides because I know there's been a lot of information out there and a lot of misinformation about business interruption claims. And I'd like to clear that up. But I'd really like to answer questions for folks who are joining us today. And we're going to open it up to questions. So I'm going to go through these slides that I have and share my screen. Maybe it'll raise some issues for you. But I'm going to give you the bottom line up front right now. And that is, you need to file a claim. If you have a business loss, and if you have a business, you're going to more likely than not have a loss as a result of COVID-19 in the closures. If you have a loss, file a claim. There's no harm in filing a claim. I know folks are reticent and they're concerned about filing a claim. I'm telling you, don't be. File the claim. The insurance industry has done a fantastic job of messaging this. And what I might say is mis-messaging this, meaning they've gotten out ahead of this, telling people it isn't covered. Your business interruption claim isn't covered. there's something that they keep calling the virus exclusion. It excludes this. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. There's no such thing as the virus exclusion, by the way. Many policies have no exclusion whatsoever that has any applicability to these claims. Some have a form of exclusion that doesn't apply to these types of claims, and other policies have pretty tight exclusions, but they still might not apply, and I'll explain why in a minute. So step one, file a claim. The second thing I want to leave you with is if the insurance company says, no, it's not covered, that's not the end of the inquiry, it's just the beginning. In fact, every case I've ever won, every one, they all start with no. In fact, I can't win your case until the insurance company says no. And so no isn't the end of the inquiry, it's just the beginning. Don't be intimidated, please. Even if you think there's nothing that can be done whatsoever, let us look at your business interruption claim for free. If the insurance company is doing the right thing, we'll tell you that. If they're not doing the right thing, we will tell you that too. Listen, if you go to the doctor or go to the dentist, you do not want the patient, you don't hand the patient the x-ray, you don't hand the patient the MRI and say, go ahead, you take a shot at it first, you read it, you tell me what you think. No, you read it for them. Same thing here. An insurance policy is complicated. I read them all day, every day for 30 years. To me, I can blast through a 100-page insurance policy pretty quick because I've probably seen that policy many, many times before and litigated it in court. Let us look at that, even if you think there's nothing that can be done. All right, I'm going to share my screen real quick. If you've got questions, go ahead and hit, there's a button that says raise your hand. You'll raise it and Phil will invite you into the chat with me in a minute. And I'd really like to do that. And I'm going to go through these quickly so that I can do that. So let me do this.
Mark, I might point out if a question comes to mind, they can type it into the chat as well, or I'm monitoring the participant hands. As you said, if they raise their hand, I'll bring them in.
Absolutely. So the first slide here, can you see this okay, Phil?
Yes, sir.
The first slide is pretty simple. It is a letter to the insurance company, and it's just notifying them of the claim. I know people, again, are reluctant to file claims. If there's ever a time to file a claim, now is it. And it's pretty simple. But the key is, and I've had a lot of folks, in fact, the dentist hired me Monday evening, and he had submitted a claim, and he submitted it on his own, and he said, I'm submitting a claim for my civil authority, for coverage under civil authority. And that's how he worded the claim. He used those words because he's heard those words. Well, the insurance company wrote back and says, well, you have no coverage for civil authority, and left it at that. The problem is he limited his claim, and there was no reason to do that. And so what I'm recommending, and we will do this on behalf of our clients, is file the claim in a very broad way. First, just let them know, and it's very simple. Let them know you've lost income and had extra expense and suffered losses as a result of COVID-19. And then I'm presenting a claim for all coverage available under my policy. You see the guy who filed the claim for civil authority only, they denied it because he didn't have coverage for that. But he does have coverage for other things. And insurance companies different insurance companies call this particular coverage lots of different things. But if you don't say the magic words, if you limit it, then they respond in kind and say, well, you don't have that. So if, let's say you say, I have a business interruption claim, and then they write back, you have no coverage for business interruption. That's because they call it time elements coverage, or maybe they call it business income coverage. So don't limit it. We just make it all coverages under my business policy and policy for loss of income and extra expense. And it includes, and then we do list a number of different things that they call it. But the important point is, one, file the claim. Two, make sure it's broad enough to encompass all the coverages that might be implicated by this loss. And people say, well, are my rates going to go up? I promise you, your rates are going up. In fact, I don't think you've ever been in business and had them go down. Rates are always going up. They're not, but that's not a reason. They're going up for everybody, whether you file a claim or not. And that's not a reason not to tap into this. And I will tell you, many, many policies cover these losses, and there's no exclusion at all. And there are other policies that have some exclusions that don't apply at all. And then there are these others that are a little bit tighter, tougher. And we'll get into those in a moment. So what does it cover? What is business interruption or business income, extra expense, or time elements cover? It's normal operating or continuing operating expenses plus profit. So if you have no continuing operating expenses, there's no reason to compensate for that. But you're going to have some, even if you're shut down. You've still got your insurance payments, you still got utilities, those types of things. And so you're going to have ongoing continuing operating expenses plus profit. And that's one type of coverage. And then there's another type of coverage, and that is extra expenses incurred because of the suspension of operations. Some businesses, you incur a lot of extra expenses as a result of the shutdown. And so those are covered too. Those are generally the type of damages that you get to recover. There are other types of damages, but those are the main two. And let me show you. This was the very first lawsuit we filed as a result of this pandemic, and that was in Lee County, Florida, on behalf of a dentist. That was our very first one as a result of this pandemic. We filed many more since this one, but that was the first one. And this doctor, like many, was shut down for all but emergency care. And so let's look at the coverage. This is one of the main carriers that we have for dentists. And so this is business income and extra expense. So what's the trigger? Now the insurance company is telling people, again, they're messaging this loud and hard. I'm not saying the message is accurate, but it is loud. And they're saying it's not covered because you have to have damage to your building, and the coronavirus has not caused damage to the buildings. Two responses to that. One, there are some buildings that actually have been damaged because it has the presence of COVID or coronavirus on it. That's generally not the case. That's not the kind of claim we're filing, but that is not the trigger. Damage is not the trigger. And the insurance companies write the coverage in a very particular way. But when they write their denials, they're ignoring how they wrote the coverage. And so here's the most important language here. The suspension, that means the suspension of operations, must be caused by direct physical loss of or damage to property. And so it's two things: direct physical loss or damage to property. The insurance companies are telling people that those two things are the same thing. They're not. Every word in an insurance policy matters. Direct physical loss of or damage to property. Two very different things. If somebody steals your car, you have coverage for that because there's been the direct physical loss of your car. You've lost it, the use of it for its intended purpose. It doesn't have any damage. Now the policy also, your car policy would also cover damage to your car. But it recognizes, insurance companies recognize the difference between direct physical loss of or damage to property. And so there are two coverage triggers. One is direct, and this will become important, very important in a minute. Direct physical loss of to damage to property. So it can be the direct physical loss of property or damage to property. The direct physical loss occurs when you can no longer use your business, your property, for its intended purpose. And I'll back up 1 second. This business income policy, the business interruption policy, where is it found in the insurance policy? It's found in your property coverage. It's found there. Now, it's found there because it was intended to cover the insured if something happens so that they can no longer use their property for its intended purpose. If you lose the use of your property, and as a result there is a loss of income, then there is coverage for that. That's why they stick this coverage in the property policy. That surprises people. People often think their business income policy is somewhere else. It's a separate policy or something. It's not. It's in your property coverage, intended to cover you if you can no longer use your property for its intended purpose. That is exactly what has happened, and that is exactly why it's worded this way. You have direct physical loss of your property for its intended purpose. Coverage is triggered. Now, just so you know, this isn't the only carrier that words it this way. And so that was Bankers. This is CNA. These are very common carriers for dental offices. All right, the suspension must be caused by direct physical loss of or damage to property. So it's a different carrier, exact same words, and it's because it was intended for the same purpose. If you can no longer use your business, your property, for its intended purpose as a result of direct physical loss, and that is exactly what we have as a result of COVID-19 and the closure orders. Now, that's CNA. Just so you know, and most of the carriers have this, there's additional coverage here for extra expense. That's extra amounts that you've had to spend as a result of closing down. And then when you get back up and running, this is also as an extended business income is also a common coverage. When you start back up running, you won't be up at full speed for a while. So usually you're going to have about 6 months of coverage that allows you to get compensated for your reduced income during the time within which you are getting back up to full speed. Very common coverages. This is the Hartford. It's another carrier that's common to dentists. And again, it's the exact same trigger. Direct physical loss of or physical damage. This one says physical damage to property. Exact same thing. And you've suffered a direct physical loss of your property when you can no longer use it for its intended purpose. It is interesting to me that it doesn't say direct physical loss to your property. It says direct physical loss of your property. Indicating again, if your car is stolen, you've had direct physical loss of your car, not to. The damage is something that happens to the property. Here we have direct physical loss of. And again, Hartford has these same types of coverage, extra expense, and also additional coverages, excuse me. Now, here we have dependent property coverage. This is an additional type of coverage. Sometimes you're going to have losses because your suppliers are unable to send you your supplies, and you'll have coverage for that's called dependent property coverage. And so you have upstream and downstream, and sometimes it's because your customers can't get in and you can't use. So it's either your customers or your suppliers, depending on the nature of the policies. And most of them are this two-way street. And then this coverage right here, and this is a kind of a funky way to get into coverage. We will not pay for loss or damage caused by or resulting from any of the following, but if, and it is interesting because the insurance companies in their denial letters and in their court filings say, well, loss and damage is really, it's the same thing, but they continue throughout the policy to raise the distinction. They won't pay for loss or damage. So this is an exclusion caused by or resulting from any of the following, but if the loss or damage by a covered cause of loss result, we will pay for the resulting loss or damage. And again, they continue throughout their policy to make the distinction between the two. Now they're saying it doesn't matter. Those words are the same thing. They're not going to mince words. Every word matters. And if they were the same thing, they wouldn't continue doing it this way. The important part of this is we will pay for resulting loss or damage from acts or decisions of a governmental body. And so there they have coverage triggered also. Now, we've heard a lot about the virus exclusion. Again, there is no such thing as the virus exclusion. Some policies, many of them, have no exclusion whatsoever that's going to apply to this pandemic. They don't say virus. They don't have anything like a virus exclusion. Some policies are going to have some things in them that the insurance company can point to and say, aha, this is a virus exclusion. It has nothing to do with virus, and those will be shot down pretty easily. Other ones, again, are better, and we'll look at all those in a minute. But what happened is, what's led to some of these exclusions is in 2003, we had the SARS epidemic. That came about, and as a result of that, the insurance industry started to write some exclusions. Again, they're not in every policy. So in 2006, ISO, which is the Insurance Services Office, they're a vendor for insurance companies, what they did is wrote an exclusion and then sold that product to insurance companies. And this is their 2006 version of exclusion of loss due to virus or bacteria. If your policy has that, I would encourage you still file a claim, because this policy, this exclusion, remember, two triggers for coverage: direct physical loss of or damage to property. This endorsement only applies to the kind of damage or the kind of loss that is property damage. Remember all the times I showed you before? This applies to loss or damage. Loss or damage. Here, A is the scope of the exclusion. It says the exclusion set forth in B applies to the following, and then B is the exclusion. So they got to get past A before you get to B. Let's look at the scope of the exclusion. It applies to property damage. Now, when they get down here, they do say loss or damage caused by or resulting from, but you never get there unless it's those type of losses that are due to property damage versus the direct physical loss ones. And the law in every state that I've handled a insurance case in, and that's a lot of them, says that these types of exclusions, any type of exclusion, must be interpreted narrowly for the benefit of the insured and against the insurance company. And if you interpret it narrowly, then the courts will decide this only applies to those claims that are triggered due to the actual property damage. It's not triggered from the direct physical loss. There is no case law on that yet. We will be trailblazing on it. That form was updated in '07, and it was not changed. The scope of it, again, is only for property damage. And that makes sense. The purpose of this, if you will think about it, is if you think about a building, remember this is in your property policy, and if you have a virus inside your building and you have to shut down for that, you will suffer loss and damage as a result of it. You're going to suffer loss of income, and you will suffer damage because of the presence of the virus inside your building. That's not the kind of claim we're filing here. We're filing the direct physical loss of use because of virus or the closure orders outside in the communities. This is one of those exclusions that is probably not going to even get any traction at all. And insurance companies are raising this one. And they say, well, a virus is a microorganism. There is a lot of dispute about that, by the way. And then it says, it lists which ones it's talking about. And it doesn't list virus. If they intended to use this virus or use this to exclude virus, they knew how to do it. Because ISO, Insurance Service Office, was selling virus exclusions to all the insurance companies, whether they bought it or not, up to them. But they were trying to sell it, and they knew, insurance companies knew, they had to be specific because these exclusions must be interpreted narrowly. And if it were to apply, this again triggers only to the damage type of loss. See, they don't say here any physical, they say here any physical loss or damage. Remember, the trigger would be direct physical loss of or damage to insured property. They word this slightly different. Any physical loss or damage to insured property. They'll say that gets them past the exclusion. We'll see about that because this one is focused on, let's see, the type of loss that results from the presence of COVID or virus, I'm sorry, microorganism inside the property again, not one out in the community. Again, no court case on this one, but it does not list virus as one of the reasons it's excluded. And we're coming in for a landing pretty quickly. This is another type of virus or bacteria exclusion. No cases finding that applies in this situation. And then there's a limited fungi and bacterial coverage, and it starts with an exclusion, but again, it's only talking about those type of losses from a virus which occurs as a result of its presence inside the building. If you look at A and B there, we see that. And then it talks about limited coverage, but that limited coverage, again, only applies to those situations where there has to be reconstruction or remediation inside the building. That's not the type of loss we have here. And in this case, the exclusion and the limitation would not apply because it's dealing with a different type of loss. Then we have, that's the rest of that one. Last thing I want to talk about, some folks have received money under PPP for payroll protection, and they ask, do I have a claim or not? The insurance companies are telling you, if you got money, from PPP, then you don't have a business interruption claim. That is not accurate at all. For example, this might be considered, the payroll protection might be considered something called a collateral source. And the insurance company is not entitled, N-T-I-T-L-E-D, to an offset, not entitled to an offset if the people who pay the collateral source are entitled to reimbursement. The government is entitled, has a right of reimbursement for the payroll protection. They may not exercise that right. It may be forgiven. But if there is a right of reimbursement, whether it's exercised or not, then generally the insurance company would not be entitled to any offset for money received under PPP. If they were entitled to an offset, it would only be a partial offset for the money that was given, because that money that was given is only given for three things: payroll, mortgage or rent, and utilities. And so they would say, if there's an offset, you would only get an offset for money that was spent on those things and not for anything else. All right, Phil, that's all I got on this.
Okay, let me,
all my slides.
I just want to remind folks, if you've got a question, please put it in the chat. If you're a participant, you can raise your hand. There's a raise your hand button, and I can unmute you to speak. Mark, we don't have anything at the moment. I wonder if you could address for when this is used again and repurposed to spread for more information. It's going to be on some video platforms, some audio only podcast platforms. Could you let folks know what is the importance for them? They're in the market looking for lawyers. What about the folks that may have shinier ads that started advertising the very first day they could, that anyone knew of this? What should folks look at when thinking about who to retain for this on their experience within this type of area of law?
So you raise an important issue for me, and that is, I'll just say it bluntly. I'm more worried about lawyers who are handling these cases on our side on behalf of policyholders who have little or no experience in these claims than I am worried about the defense lawyers that the insurance companies hire. That's a pretty bold statement. But the reason I'm making that statement is I've been doing this a long time, and I cannot tell you how many times I've been faced with the problem of I've got lawyers who are helping policyholders who don't do this day in and day out, who screw things up, and then we all pay the price for it. And so what I recommend for people is, if you're going to have a lawyer handle this, make sure it's a lawyer who specializes in this area of the law, day in, day out, year after year, decade after decade. Because this isn't something you can dabble in. And I know a lot of lawyers are slow right now because car accidents are down, slip and falls are down, people are not out and about. And so they'll say, and I know of one right now, guy got a motion to dismiss today. He just got it today. The very first thing he did was send it to me. What do I do? What do I do? And I'm going to help because I don't want the thing to get screwed up. But it's not the type of case he handles, has never handled this type of case in the past. And he ran off and filed a lawsuit. Now I got to deal with that. And so make sure it's a lawyer who has done this before and has experience doing it. And don't be shy about asking about it. Ask them, when's the last time you stood in front of a jury asking for money on behalf of a policyholder? How many times have you done it? And what's the result? How many insurance claims on behalf of policyholders have you handled? And I can tell you, I've handled tens of thousands. whether, I mean, regardless of the type of coverage, again, health insurance, life insurance, disability, homeowners, business owners, anytime the insurance company, your own insurance company is involved, I've handled it. Travel insurance, it's what I do. And so just make sure you do that.
The one thing I'd like to follow up on what you answered, Mark, was how are you able to help those lawyers? What are you doing to make sure you're helping the marketplace for the lawyers that already have those cases? How are you able to make sure that those try to get as right as you can?
I'm reaching out to them. I'm emailing them and say, let's collaborate. Let's have a meeting. Let's talk. Love to I'll get your insight, give you my insight, and make sure we're making the right moves on all these cases. And so I'm trying to get as much collaboration as possible with people who are doing these claims. The problem is, I don't know who, I mean, there's so many of them. So I know somebody's out there today who is probably struggling in presenting one of these claims, and I just don't want any of us to pay the price for it. So it's almost like whack-a-mole. I got to find them.
I think you might have been in the middle of starting to say something else when I asked you that follow-up, Mark. I just want to make sure I don't cut off anything that you were going to be presenting.
No, I think that was it. I was done.
Okay. I've got one more question that I'd like to make sure that we present for folks. While I remind, raise your hand or type into the chat if you've got something to present for Mark. Mark, I heard some people, because we work together, thank goodness for me, and I heard people outside of our law firm wondering when we were going to get involved in business interruption. We were a little bit slower than the folks that went right out. Could you explain to folks, again, that are going to see this and hear this later, why was it that we didn't just jump in and file a business interruption lawsuit right away when these first started?
This is a unique situation that is obviously affecting a lot of people. And I wanted to make sure it was done right. And so I convened inside the office a business interruption task force, of which Phil is a member, a valuable member, and I'm fortunate to have him on that team and on my team. And I also convened a team of outside lawyers who do this kind of work to make sure that we were doing it correctly. And I convened a group of public adjusters who I got together with, got their thoughts on this. We came up with a concerted, collaborative, comprehensive program, because it's easy to file a lawsuit, but you're going to get a motion to dismiss immediately. And you got to be ready to respond to it. This isn't like a small individual case where you might have a car accident and you just sort of change things around as you go. And so we wanted to make sure we were doing it right.
Mark, thank you for that answer. I believe Gary Pritchard, our panelist, has a question, a point to make. Gary, I believe that you can unmute yourself and let's hear from you, sir.
Yeah. So Mark, I had a question. I'm dealing with small business owners, including dentists, who are asking me, how do I get a copy of my policy to begin with even? And they've sent me something to look at, and it's the declarations page. So maybe even more basic than what we've been talking about. How do they get a copy of their policy?
All right, welcome to my life. So getting a copy of the policy. I've had to sue insurance companies before to get a copy of the policy. And sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's, no pun intended, it's like pulling teeth. And the easiest way is, I give you two answers. One is, you can order the copy of the policy, but my fear is that the small business owner or physician is going to start reading the policy, and that'd be the same as me telling the radiology facility, just send me the films, I'll do a wet read on this and figure out myself what's going on. I think any doctor would say, that's not a good plan. We have specialists who read these films. And so same thing here. And so when I hear people saying, hey, I'm ordering it, I'm getting it, my first question is why? Are you going to read it? And they go, yeah, I'm going to look through it. Don't. Let us look at it for you for free. And coming with that, we'll order a copy of the policy because they'll give it to me. So we order a copy of the policy, we review it, then we go over it with our client. Now, to answer your underlying question, how do they do it? If they're going to do it, then all they got to do, hopefully, is write. You can look at the deck page at the top. You can write a letter to your broker, but also to your insurance company. Put them both on it and say, I'm presenting a claim, like I told you at the beginning, and I'd like a copy of my policy. Whether they get the policy or not, I don't know. A lot of times the insurance company, they kind of play coy with this, and they'll send them a deck sheet or something like that, or just a few pages and say, here you go. Or they'll send a letter that says, hey, it's not covered. I know of a lot of agents who are discouraging their clients from filing these claims. And they're telling them, hey, it's not covered, don't waste your time. And these folks are not advocates for policyholders. And so they may be reading these differently than the way we are. Hopefully that answers your question, but I always have a red flag that goes up when people are really out there fighting to get a copy of their own policy, because my concern is they're going to sit there and read it and then they make a conclusion on their own that may or may not be accurate. What else you got, Gary?
You know, do you recommend that they get the denial from the insurance company before they contact you, or is that something that you help them with?
As long, I'm happy to help them. We'll file a claim letter, and that way we can get the ball rolling. And I think the insurance company is more responsive to us, and we can get things moving quicker. And as you saw at the beginning, my claim letter is going to be very broad, so they can't play coy and say, well, you don't have business interruption coverage, when in reality they got time elements coverage. And so I send the right kind of claim letter. If the small business owner or dentist or physician, if they want to send their own, just make sure it's for all coverage available under the policy as a result of COVID-19. And then that puts the onus where it should be on the insurance company to tell the insured what coverages are available and what the coverage position is of the insurance company, instead of this game of cat and mouse where you didn't use the magic words.
Okay, really good stuff. And you know, just my own personal experience was that I got denied from my broker, and I believed him. And I'm a lawyer, right? So I'm like looking for it had the same physical loss thing that you talked about before.
Well, I can almost guarantee it's going to say direct physical loss of or damage to property. So it covers those two different situations. But they're not, the insurance company is ignoring that right now. I will tell you, there are going to be a lot of court cases that interpret those words. Those are going to be some of the most frequently typed words over the next 2 to 5 years. Direct physical loss of or damage to property. I can guarantee you, as much as the insurance company wants to ignore the difference between the two, there's going to be a lot of ink spilled about that.
Appreciate it.
All right, anything else or anything else from anyone else?
I don't see anything else at this moment, Mark. I sometimes, when we are winding down, I typically do the going once, going twice, give about 10 to 20 seconds for folks to raise their hand or type in a question. I don't see anything here. I'm going to start leading us out and tell how grateful I am to you, Mark, for coming to join us. I'm certainly grateful to Gary coming in and giving in his insight from being involved in the dental industry. Paul, in case we had any kind of legal analysis we needed, got to have you here backing me up for sure. And look forward to being able to do this all again. Mark, I know that this is going to be an issue. You want to talk about some of the other events that you're going to be hosting and how that's going to work for people to come that hear this later, that know where to go to see you and hear you again?
Well, yeah, Phil, I can't even keep track of them, but I know I've got tomorrow evening at 5 o'clock a webinar. I'll be talking about a lot of this stuff. I'll open it up and hopefully a lot of folks will call and ask questions. I very much appreciate the questions, and I think it's a much better presentation when we get that. So hopefully we'll have a lot of that tomorrow at 5. You can find that on, where are we advertising that? Is that going to be on your Facebook page? Probably I'll put it up on my Facebook page, Mark Nation, attorney. There's not many of us. And
I know that it's on my personal page, Philip Sanov, and I've got it on my business page, Phil Sanov, first party property policy holder for Facebook. We're boosting that to make sure that folks see that there. Is there, I hope I'm not putting you on the spot. Is there going to be a recurring type Thursday evening or Wednesday evening, Thursday evening question and answer that you do, or is it primarily just going to be tomorrow night at 5 o'clock? Help us with that.
It'll be recurring as long as we keep getting people and I can answer the questions.
Great. Thank you. Well, here we go. 1, 2, 3, third time's the charm. I am grateful for the special edition of Phil's First Party Parlay. The guest that we had, most importantly, my friend and leader, Mark Nation. I'm going to take us out of here. Don't forget, Morgan & Morgan, Insurance Recovery Group. Come see us. Thanks very much, everyone. Signing off.
Bye-bye.